So picture this. A revolution has just kicked off with open warfare, but here's the catch. There's no actual army to fight it. This is the incredible story of how a brand new nation, staring down an impossible task, tried to create a fighting force, quite literally, from scratch.
Right after the first shots were fired at Lexington and Concord, the situation on the ground was, well, pure chaos. You've got thousands of super passionate, patriotic farmers and shopkeepers forming these militias. But they were all scattered, totally disorganized, and kind of doing their own thing. There was a ton of energy, for sure, but zero strategy, and no one was in charge.
And all that chaos leads to this one massive, terrifying question that's hanging over everybody's head. How on earth could these 13 disjointed colonies ever hope to defeat the British Empire? I mean, we're talking about the most professional, best equipped, and most powerful military on the planet at the time. The odds? Let's be honest, they were absolutely terrible.
So yeah, the colonies were up against a giant. The problem was, their resistance was scattered all over the place and, frankly, just not going to cut it. It really didn't take long for the leaders of the rebellion to have this big, sobering uh-oh moment. Look, passion and bravery are great. They're essential, but they don't win wars against the global superpower. These individual militias, just fighting on their own terms, were never going to be enough for a long-term fight. They were just going to get picked off one by one.
So what do you do? Well, back in June of 1775, the Second Continental Congress came up with a pretty radical solution. They decided to create something that had never, ever existed before. A single, unified Continental Army to represent all the colonies and fight under one banner. It was a bold move. To fight a professional army, you need to build your own.
Okay, so you have an army, on paper. Great, but that's just paper. It's totally useless without a leader, right? So the hunt was on to find the right person for this impossible job.
And the choice fell to a Virginian planter, a veteran of the French and Indian War, George Washington. Now, he had military experience, he had political connections, but maybe most importantly, he was from Virginia. Picking him was a really smart move because it helped prove that this wasn't just some local New England squabble, this was a truly continental fight.
But here's the thing that might surprise you. Washington's reaction? It wasn't some power-hungry grab for glory. He was actually crushed by the weight of the responsibility. He was reluctant, full of genuine self-doubt, and basically said he didn't think he was up to the task.
So while Washington himself had his doubts, key figures like John Adams, they had zero doubt, absolutely none. Adams was convinced that Washington's character and his sheer resolve were exactly what this fragile cause needed. As he put it, plain and simple, Washington is the man.
All right, so they've got their commander, problem solved, right? Oh, not even close. Washington was about to come face to face with the brutal reality of leading an army that was being built from, well, from nothing.
I mean, when we say nothing, we really mean nothing. The soldiers were brave, no question, but they had very little formal training. They were short on everything: muskets, gunpowder, uniforms, heck, even food. And the cherry on top, the Congress that was supposed to be funding this whole operation was basically broke.
It's a staggering irony when you think about it. George Washington is now the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. It's this huge, grand title. But in reality, he was in charge of a desperate, ragtag collection of militias that was nowhere near ready to take on the British. He was a general without a real army.
So how do you even begin to fix that? If you don't have money or supplies, what's left? Washington believed the answer was something you couldn't touch, something intangible, the very soul of an army.
Faced with this overwhelming list of problems, Washington knew he had to build his army on a foundation that money couldn't buy and the British couldn't take away. He came to believe that the entire hope of the revolution, the very survival of his army, depended on one single critical thing.
And this became his guiding philosophy. Discipline is the soul of an army. He was convinced that through rigorous training and unwavering order, he could turn what was basically a mob into a cohesive professional fighting force. Discipline would have to take the place of supplies, experience, and everything else they didn't have.
And you know what? This focus on creating a disciplined force wasn't just a nice idea. It became the bedrock of the entire war effort. It was this core belief that allowed the Continental Army to survive the absolute horrors of Valley Forge, to pull off brilliant maneuvers at places like Trenton and Princeton, and ultimately to just hold together for 8 long years and win the whole thing. The story of the Continental Army's birth really pits material advantage against human will. And it leaves us with a timeless question. When the odds seem completely stacked against you, what truly matters more, having all the resources you need, or having a leader with the unwavering resolve to build something from absolutely nothing?